is the previous sheriff, Larry Kirkpatrick, came out to the house one time, out to the ranch one time, and he had this pile of pages. And he said, and it was all duct taped together. And he said, he said, this is getting shuffled around and everything, and getting destroyed little by little. Do you know what to do with it? And I was like, what? Huh? Like, I said, I write books, I don't publish them or print them, and so I really don't know how to do anything about this. And it stayed there for a while at the ranch, like as I tried to figure it out. But I was fortunate enough to get a hold of a fellow by the name of Wally Johnson over at the Buffalo Bill Center for the West, and he's in charge of the McCracken Research Library down there. And he put me onto a magnificent rebinder. And what we were able to do was what is here in my hands right here. And I asked Steve to be here like that because he is emblematic of Johnson County and our Sheriff's Department. Like that. And I think once we unwrap this, you'll know exactly what it is because it's written on it on the outside.
Wait a minute, we have to
read it too. Look at it, and we'll know what this is. And this is, I consider this to be kind of a gift from the Johnson County Sheriff's Department and myself to the Johnson County Library. And Miss Cynthia Twig is here, like for this particular item, and I'll let you unwrap it. How about that?
What an honor.
We spared no expense on the wrapping, as you can see.
Did you catch who the gentleman is on the other side? Did you catch who he is?
This is the Sheriff's Record of Prisoners for Johnson County, Wyoming. From December 18th, 1894 to June 29th, 1981. It is magnificently handwritten ledger of all of the prisoners of Johnson County all the way back to the inception of the county. And what's really kind of amazing is that when I had it out there in my library waiting to get done, the amount of people from Johnson County who came out for dinner who discovered family members. And I don't know if Robert Taylor might have had any family members over the years, but I'm sure if he did, they're probably in this book. Anyway, this is us giving it to Steve, and Steve, give it to her.
I think he was from the sheriff's department.
I can tell you there is one page missing out of that book.
Oh!
And
this is starting to sound like a Wall Longmire mystery.
it is a page of actually from the Range War days, and the people that were arrested at that time during the Range War that were
Took this page out.
Someone took the page out someplace, future generations.
Down in Texas somewhere, probably.
Right down in Texas. Or maybe the Cheyenne Wyoming livestock.
There you go.
It's a good place for it to have it here. So.
Well, I'm really a little overwhelmed at this amazing gift. And history in Johnson County is very rich. And there is are a lot of people who research it and enjoy it and live it. And so I'm just really thrilled to have this in our library. Thank you. Can I take?
Wait.
It's buffalo. Just so you know. The leather is buffalo.
Oh, stop
All
just
right.
a minute. Could you stop just a minute?
Let's get this shindig on the road.
Okay.
No, we'll do that after the talk and before the Q&A. Okay, so do you want to bring your stool out here, or you want to sit between us?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay.
I'm good. I can stand. I'm good.
No. You got to have a chair just in case. You've never seen Robert. He's kind of long-winded, actually. All right. Robert, do you want a chair?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to get in your way.
Do we need a mic? Can you guys hear all of us?
I forgot you got that going right there.
Yes, Mike. Those in the back say yes. They say yes. Do we have a microphone system here? Is this the item?
We good? Everybody here? Everybody here? So sure.
So you didn't get lost today, huh?
Yeah, how'd you get here with Tom Kosinska anyway? How'd you get that?
You gave me Tom. You don't want to be.
Oh, that's not true.
All the glory.
Well, if everybody, can everybody hear me?
I think so.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Or
Yeah.
Okay, can we turn it up or?
testing? Anybody hear me now? How about now? Yeah. Well, if anybody's wondering who I am, which I completely understand that, my name's Scott Montgomery. I edit the Mystery People newsletter for a small mystery bookstore and a very large bookstore, Book People, down in Austin, Texas. I started my career out, though, however, about 12, 13 years ago, working at another prestigious bookstore at the time that was just called The Mystery Bookstore in Los Angeles. And I'll try to put this in a nutshell as quickly as possible, but if you ever heard the term never judge a book by its cover, this is very much a good allegory for it. What they send us is for a lot of the booksellers is what they call the ARC, A-R-C, Advanced Reading Copy. And 6-7 months even before the book came out, Penguin Viking were so into this book, they gave it to us way ahead of time. But it was the ugliest cover on this book that you ever will see. It was known as, we have some kids here, so I'll say that it's that ugly whatever book, and we were always referred to it as. And we had to do a newsletter, and we have a newsletter, and each of us had to have a pick of the month. And it was coming down to January. It was like December and the January one was coming up. I had to pick something. I hadn't read anything that I liked so far. I'm like, well, that ugly cover book is there, and it says something about Wyoming. I love going up there all the time, so maybe it's worth something. Started reading it, fell in love with it by the first chapter. And it basically, as far as my career as a bookseller, got started with that. At the same time he started as a writer. So next to the author, I think I'm as much linked to it as Essie and Judy are. But it kind of got me thinking when I was walking around here. One reason, I used to come up here all the time. Oddly enough, I quit when we started becoming friends. I don't know how that happened, but...
I invited him up here one time to cut wood.
That's true. Yeah, it was kind of like that scene of Listen God, you and mine doing some well digging for your breakfast. But one reason I always loved coming up here is I'm a huge fan of the Western genre, and the Virginia was one of those pinnacle, basically introduced that genre. And also interested in these guys who were kind of these Easterners who came out here, like Theodore Roosevelt, Frederick Remington, and Owen Wister. These very elite, like if there was ever like Eastern elitist types, it was these guys, but they somehow brought this Western mythos kind of back in this idea. So it was a little disarmed when I come back 10 years later and see like one thing that says the Virginian, but I look all around the town that I was here 10 years ago with and see Longmire everywhere. A Longmire burger, a Longmire sirloin steak you can get.
That's Robert's fault.
You kind of ran one extra out of town. And this discussion won't get too heady on it, but kind of the way I think we're going to go with it is talk about both of your processes on it, but working with the Western and how there's kind of a new resurgence of the Western and a new Western in a way that both of you are very involved with, and how it's become much more, what I think was an American genre has become much more of an international genre. So I kind of want to start out with you because it's considered, I think it's considered as much of a Western in this series as it is a mystery at this point.
Oh, I think so, definitely. I think so, definitely. I mean, mystery is mechanics like that, but the environs is the Western. Like, and the environs are so much of what Longmire is, both in the book and in the television form. But
you had kind of, memory serves me right, this Cold Dish was loosely based on a case of memory serves me right. It was in
Glenridge, New Jersey.
That's right, because it was a big deal and had national coverage when it had happened in mid-'80s.
Yep. Yeah. And it just seemed to me like it was an opportunity to transfer that case out here. And actually, it was more of a case of trying to contrast between the two major cultures of the American West, the reservation culture and the non-reservation culture. And that's how it all got started right there.
And what, besides just the two cultures, when you kind of transpose that true crime into where you live, what other things kind of did you notice that kind of were changing, or that were going to be very different from that?
Well, the big thing, I mean, I don't know so much if it was what was changing, it was what wasn't changing. Like, you know, I mean, because what happened with, I don't know if you guys, I know I've told this story before like that, but when I was thinking about this storyline, I ran into a DCI investigator here in Wyoming, where we have one crime lab down in Cheyenne, and I asked him, I said, you know, how long does it take you guys to get DNA evidence? And he looks at me and he goes, is this a high profile case? And I said, yeah, let's pretend like it's a high profile case. And he goes, about 9 months. And so I thought, well, okay, all that CSI stuff that they're doing, you know, in these books and on television and stuff's not particularly honest, is it? Like, and he goes, no, it's not. And I thought, well, okay, well, what if you did a procedural that took place in the least populated county, in the least populated state? You know, it would kind of go back more to storytelling, go back more to character and relationships and to place than all of that whiz-bang, you know, Buck Rogers stuff.
Well, I say one thing that caught me, I think I've told you this before in the first chapter, is if you're, you know, see a cop movie or half the time even read a cop novel, there's always that big scene where like the guy, the main detective is going, no, I want to be the primary on this. And they're always fighting, you know, who's the primary on the case. And there's a scene where I think it's where the lab tech or something says something, well, I take it you're the primary on this, Walt? And he goes, no, hell no, I'm not touching it. And he says, I'm going to give it to Vic. And both like, he and the examiner both feel very much more relaxed when Vic is going to be taken care of.
It's definitely one of those cases where like you're all in the foxhole together, like that, and so you know whoever wants to shovel the most, here's the shovel, take it away.
So then, basically, well, I guess it was about the time book 6 came around.
Yeah, 7, book 7. Hell was empty.
Was empty, and
Warner Brothers came and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing a TV show." And that was when it all kind of got started.
And I have to say, I was fortunate. Not only did I get to be somebody who gets to read the books ahead of time, I was lucky. I was down at a thing in Houston that Craig was speaking at, and he said, "Oh," he goes, "I think they found the guy for Longmire. Do you want to see his screen test?" And I do have to say, all of us were incredibly impressed and said, "That's the guy." People have been reading the books forever. They were just diehard. And I like to say what impressed me about it the most with the screen test is I said, he's got his awkwardness. He's got Walt's. He's not just walking in there like John Wayne. And nothing against John Wayne.
Get in front of this.
And if I can kind of go back a little bit with you, from what I gather, you'd been working steady, but not a huge work you had done. In fact, if nobody has seen it, it's one of my favorite crime movies the last 10 years, The Hard Word, which you're a real SOB in that movie. But,
I was in that movie.
And had done Vertical Limit, which was a really kind of fun action movie. The best thing I think you were known for at the time was The Matrix, where you were the guy who looked like the 3 other guys in the background. 2 other guys. And
Paid for that.
so, now, did you get the entire
Those
pilot?
things were the biggest thing I did.
What it was the TV
But
series?
that's another.
Okay. Was the
You ever heard of the BBC?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
I played a priest.
I was a priest, a drunken priest, so no acting required. I lived in Dublin, but the Bagot Street Bridge, which is close to Smith's Pub, that's all I got for that story.
I got more. He says he used to walk around with his priest outfit on. And I was like, man, alive.
I was getting a lot of action, but
really?
I can tell you, that was most of the elderly ladies loved me. Other people threw rocks at me, and that was about it.
Now, for the audition, did you get the full pilot script, or did you just kind of get the audition script?
I got full script.
And what was it that kind of grabbed you about it when you read the script?
Everything.
Well, as soon as I read it, I thought, yep, this is the one. Because in my game, you don't, I don't think you really understand how the business works. I'm not sure I do, but it's not about ability. It's about bankability. And there's a list of certain people. I can tell you a lot of big shows that I was cast in the lead, or they wanted me, but then the money people said, no, we got to have that other guy. what's his name, the short guy, Tom Cruise, that guy. You've heard of that guy. But so that happens all the time. So you may be the right person for the role, and you may even be the best person. You're just not going to get it. It's a rare thing that they get to choose the person they want. And I guess they wanted me, and I just read it, and I thought, yeah, I can do this, and I want to do it. So I tried to get it, but that's, you know, the thing is, I put it on tape with a buddy of mine and sent it off, and well, he sent it because I didn't know how to do it. And I forgot about it. And like a month later, I thought, oh, that show, I never heard. Oh, well. And the phone rang right on cue. I had to get to Hollywood pronto for another audition. So.
And I think I both of us have good outdoor voices. Ken, when
You think I don't?
I didn't need the mic, sir. They needed it. And I can't hear a word you're saying.
well, I thought it was interesting too because the scene that you had read for, this is on the audition for, it was, if I remember searching right, it's the one where he goes to the widow or the victim's wife and kind of has the breakdown once doing it. And I thought that was interesting because I think the reviews of the show that came out, that was always the scene that the critics had always talked about, was that particular scene and what made it different from different law enforcement shows or different Western shows at the time, which you could kind of say you were happy with that because, you know, you were trying to do something different with the books, and that was kind of their aim with the show. And I also know too that your wife was kind of like the final word on, at least with you, on, yeah, that's the person that we need to have.
I don't know about last final word. Like, I mean,
In your household.
If it was the final word that I wanted to hear about it, I can tell you that. We had these, like, because they asked me, when they asked me like who they wanted, who I thought would be good, they said, "Did you ever think about actors when you think about Walt Longmire?" And I said, "No, I don't. I got friends and family and people I work with, and those are all the people that I know. I don't know any actors, so it really wouldn't do any good for me to try." And so they said, "Well, if you were to think about actors for Walt Longmire, who do you think of?" And I said, Joel McRae, Ben Johnson, Gary Cooper, And they said that was no help at all because all those guys have been dead for 45 years. Right? And so I said, "I'm not going to be any help to you guys, so you're on your own." So then when they made me like a creative consultant on the show, and I got this like a FedEx box overnight, from Warner Brothers, and it had all the DVDs in it, and they were all, rubber banded together like that, and I poured them out on the kitchen table, and my wife Judy and I started watching them. I figured, okay, well, I got to earn my keep here. So we started putting the DVDs in the DVD player, we're watching all these guys attempt to be Walt Longmire, and there were some big name guys that were trying out for this role, and so I'm working my way through the DVD, and Judy and I are watching them and I get to the last one. It's the very last DVD. And it says Robert Taylor on it. And I turned to Judy and I said, "They took my advice after all this." I know they're doing amazing things with CGI, but I just don't know if this is really going to work or not. And so I take the DVD out and I put it in the DVD player, and this guy comes on. There are a couple of things I like about him right off the bat. First of all, he's a big guy. And, generally it just makes the job a lot easier, Western sheriffing, if you happen to be a big guy. He's lanky, he moves real easy. I mean, that was the thing. It was like that the wheels were turning. It was exactly like all of those guys that I just mentioned, the Joel McRae's, the Ben Johnsons, the Gary Coopers, all of those guys. You could see the wheels turning. You knew something was going on there, but they didn't go out of their way to, gesticulate and move around and everything. There was a kind of a laconic kind of quality to them. And what I tend to refer to it as, a hunter's quality. Because in many ways, that's what Walt's doing an awful lot of the time. He's hunting, okay? And anybody that hunts knows that one of the key abilities to any kind of hunting is stillness. An ability to just be still and just be and absorb and take in everything you need to take in. And then he started talking. And I thought, he's got this low, gravelly voice. And I thought, okay, this just might be our guy. This might just be our guy. Then he did something that none of the other actors had done. All these actors that had tried to be Walt Longmire.
Took my clothes off.
Thank goodness it wasn't that. But what happened was that he's in this woman's home. It's the worst job in law enforcement. It's the notification of death. You're telling someone that their loved one is not coming home ever. And Robert, he's going into this woman's house. He's never been in her home. He doesn't know her. He was the only actor that did this. Took off his hat. His mother, who I've met, taught him basic civility. And let me tell you, those lessons stuck. But I'm feeling really good about Robert Taylor, and it was about then that this little voice behind me goes, "Oh my." I turn around, I look at my wife Judy, and she goes, he's handsome. So I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at Robert, and I'm looking at her, and she digs the hole a little bit deeper and says, he's kind of like a TV version of you, taller, better looking, with a better voice.
So I take it you've gotten to know Judy a little bit better now, Robert. And I hope I'm not getting you in trouble by outing you on this, but I wanted to say, because I think it's actually a credit to what you do with that character, is you're one of the actors who has not read the books, because you didn't want it to...
That's a very...
to have it kind of mesh, to kind of be opposite of what might be in the script.
I read the first book. I love the books. I adored the books. But they're different to the scripts I get. And Craig's character they're just a bit different. And they've made the character in the TV show suit me, like the physicality. This guy's a little taller. You hear his voice more. He's funnier, which I would love to do, but it's not the way they do it. And if you have two things in your head, that's like being drunk. It sounds like a good idea at the time.
Well, he's a Vietnam veteran.
Well, I was too young for that, so I would have been 12, I guess. But, so I told Craig that straight off the bat. And when we're done, and we're not done, we're going to do some movies, looks like. I'm going to read it.
So, well, I have to say, as usual, it seems like anytime they need a unique or a good qualified Western hero nowadays, they go to Australia to get it, or a really good, like you would say, typical American male, they go to Australia, and it's. Oh.
People will say, "Oh, there's no Walt Longmires in America." Can I say bullshit? Is that okay? That's bullshit. There's just not many of them that are actors. I know about 5 million of them. I mean, we had a guy who's he actually died working on the show, Joe Tuck. He was 6'6". He was just made of granite. He was slightly grumpy. He was a gentle giant, and every time I got stuck, I just look over and there'd be Joe. I think that's the guy. And I see him everywhere, all the time. Just not in the movie business. And as far as Australia goes, and people, you gotta understand, I mean, I used to date this girl from Texas. I love this story. And every time I go to Texas, everybody would be telling me how big it is. It's so big. Oh, it's so big. I thought, this place must be huge. Oh, it's gargantuan. And I see Glenn over there with 2 aunts. He's from Queensland. And I've been living and working in Western Australia. And I looked it up on the map. It's over 3 times the size of Texas. In fact, Texas would be the 2nd or 3rd smallest state in Australia. I mean, what's the big deal, man? You want to talk big? So we lived in the wide open spaces. We would call them farmers or cattlemen, or they were ranchers. It was the same thing. Fought in the same wars, same churches, same pickups, the same nonsense all the way through. It's the same deal, just they speak a little different, that's all.
Tell them the story about your Aunt Ruby, Doug.
Oh, Aunt Ruby?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had an Aunt Ruby. You were going to put that in a book one time. And we had an Aunt Ruby, and she hated snakes. And we lived in this farming district where it was just, in summer, you could just, it was just a sea. Just everywhere you looked, there's snakes. She hated snakes. And she had a big old shotgun, 12 gauge, and she'd come across the paddocks and boom, 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 boom. Oh, here comes Ruby. Hated snakes.
That's what was then kind of going to lean into of how this has become more of an international genre, or if it not was always really.
It always was.
Yeah, but I will have to say though, I think the last, truly great Western, at least that went to movie theaters, was.
Heard of Errol Flynn?
Yeah, Tasmania.
Great Australian actor.
Yeah.
He was.
Yes. But the proposition to me, which is a great Western, was really? Oh, I don't do that.
That's all right. It's a little pretentious thing. I know those guys, man.
I know.
I said that to their face. It's okay.
Well,
It's just not my cup of tea.
What's your thing?
yeah.
Oh, high noon.
Right, perfect.
High noon. Did I mention high noon?
What about Western novel?
Well, Longmire's the only Western novel I've ever read. You're a guy.
I knew there was a reason why I liked you.
You like the proposition?
Yeah.
What'd you like about it?
Well, here's what I was thinking about it. To me, it was like we sat down and said, what's the best of Peckinpah and the best of, can't believe I'm blanking on his name, who did, this is terrible. Can't
See, I thought it was stylized and he was playing moves.
I thought it was, but the premise itself was so simple, but there's so much complexity in it.
Yeah.
I really loved the premise of it.
The premise was awesome and the setting was fantastic. It was brutal and hot. So I just like that. I know those guys. They're friends of mine. I work with them.
Well, and another Western that I saw recently that's on Netflix that you can see is it's called Salvation. That's actually directed by Danish folks, and in fact it stars Mads Mikkelsen, who played Hannibal Lecter, and it's about the Danish who came here after their own war in the 1870s to settle, and it's got pretty much, with the exception of one actor, pretty much the name actors are from France and Denmark and other European countries. So, and I do kind of want to talk about that because I think you got bigger in France before the books really took off here.
Yeah. Well, I think also it's kind of interesting, like that, to kind of go a little bit to what you were saying, is the sense that there are all of these like foreign directors that are dying to do a Western, and no American directors want to do a Western. And I'm like, wake up! It's a pretty good little genre we got going here. Some pretty good directors. John Ford thought they were worth doing. I don't know.
Well, it's getting the studio.
Getting the studio to think that they're bankable, like that, and that's always going to be a little bit tough, like that. But it is interesting though, because always sometimes an outside set of eyes is a good thing. Like, and I think that's where obviously you have a lot of these directors from foreign countries. Audiences from foreign countries like that really enjoy Western literature, really enjoy Western film, and are big fans of that. I mean, I know for a fact that one of your favorite genres is noir, and noir really didn't get any kind of respect until the Europeans started saying, hey, you know what, these are really incredible films, they're really good, you maybe want to take a look at these again. And I think that goes a little bit also to the way that Robert kind of approaches the show too, like in the sense that there is a sense of how the environment informs you. I mean, we do have a large scale effect on the environment, but then the environment has a large scale effect on us too, like that. And when I was watching Robert's audition, when I watched Robert in the show, you can tell that Robert is from an open space. He's not one of these, metro style actors that's angst ridden and all this stuff like that. And that really would not have worked, for Walt Longmire. And so what's really kind of nice is also that he notices a great deal of things about the American West, because he's knowledgeable about it, but he's not from the American West. And so that gives him that outsider set of eyes where he can pick out the details that are really going to be the pivot points, for the storylines and for characters and those type of things too.
Which is that? What are kind of the main things you want to convey about Walt?
For me, it's I feel I represent a large body of people that have been forgotten, or they're just, it's like this great mass of people, this quietness and this decency that I make the analogy, everybody gets counseling. I have friends that have counseling, date someone for a month, and then they go to counseling. I'm like, dude, get a new girlfriend, man. What's up with you people? Shit happens.